Hey, so I was given the subject or question to talk about was what is the scariest thing that's ever happened in my life from Dottie. And thinking about that, I kind of was thinking, what is scary? What is, what is it you're really looking for? Are we looking for like jump scare or like afraid to do something or, just like a thrill type of scare? So, kind of narrowed it down to three different stories. So I'll just go ahead and tell it first. Um, I guess kind of just like a spooky type of scare is when I was little. I watched just like a little bit of the movie It, the old It with Tim Curry, and I didn't even see the whole thing, but I just saw like a little couple pieces of it, and I don't know if it was on TV or what, but there was a scene when It was in the shower. He was like down in the drain or whatever, and so I became instantly terrified of taking a shower. I'd take a bath, I was fine, but not a shower. And at the time, I don't even know how old I was. I was probably like 5 or something. So Aaron was probably around 9. And Aaron had watched it too, and he was really afraid of it too at first. So when we would take showers at first, one of us would sit on the toilet while the other one was in the shower and and just make sure that the other person wasn't getting taken or eaten or whatever it is by the clown. And then sure enough, Aaron was older, so he like grew out of it after like a week or something of being scared, whereas I would like continue to be terrified of taking showers for years. And all I'd have to do was see a clown and I was just terrified. So it was like it scared the crap out of me when I was little. Um, as for like another type of scared, it's nervous scared, like you're afraid to get up and like sing in karaoke or something. I would say I was so nervous the day of my wedding. As much as like leading up to it, I was super excited. I didn't have one fear. I was like all in. I'd never worried about it. But for some reason, driving into the venue that morning, I thought I was fine, and then I just walked into the venue and everything like went black. Like people would talk to me and I'd just be like nodding. It was like in a movie where like everything's blurry around the person's head and like people are sounding like they're like teachers on the Peanuts shows. Um, and I just like was smiled and nodded, and the whole time it's like I couldn't breathe because the lady in charge of the venue was making me wear a mask because it was during COVID, and I was just like hyperventilating. So then I like had to go walk over to the corner and like take the mask off and like breathe by myself, and like I didn't like have any place where I could just like go and be kind of like talk it over and like be normal for a second. So I was terrified. And then all of a sudden it was like, all right, Riley, we're going. And I'm like, wait, what? What, we're going? And I had to just like, everyone was just like, was standing, like, ready for me to walk down the aisle to wait for Cammy. And I was just sat there and I'm like, and honestly, I'm telling you, everything was just a blur. I went up there and I was just like, holy cow, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And I saw her walk out, and I wish I could say like, that is the moment that my heart just stopped. No, I just kept going. I was so nervous, and it wasn't like I don't remember anything about the ceremony. It wasn't until like we left and Cammy and I went into another room, and like I all of a sudden was just like, holy cow, and I like could come back to down to ground in reality. But that was like the most like nervous to do something I've ever done, like had in my life. And it's so funny because I wasn't nervous at all. It was like I saved up all of that energy and those nerves for that one moment, that it all just came like flushing out at that moment. So that was tough. I'd say final story, the like most scared I've ever been, and this is kind of to me like actual fear, is when um, I this is going really long story. This is a long story. I'm sorry. You guys can fast forward through all of this if you want, but I'll get into it. The thing I think that like was the most scary, and it was something that it was most scary to me because it wasn't just like a jumpy scare or anything like that. It was something that became a chronic fear of mine, and so much played into it. But I just barely gotten my private license, and I was going to a different school and to a new airplane, and they were going to check me out in this little airplane. It was like a little rinky dinky thing with no horsepower. And we go out, and I'm flying with a guy. Never been in the plane. We've been out for like 2 hours practicing things, moving over Great Salt Lake and everything. And so we go back to the airport in Bountiful, and we start doing touch and goes. And he's like, all right, one more touch and go, and I think we can call it good. You can fly this airplane. So we go in, and we're going for a touch and go. We land, and we're taking off again. And when we're at about 800 feet, we start to turn. The engine just goes, it makes a loud noise. I start seeing like the propeller just starts slowing down a ton, and I'm getting terrified, and it's losing all its power. And we are able to, and like shouldn't really do this, but we were able to do a 180. We were already in a turn, and we still had a little bit of power. And we came in, and we turned around, we got on the razor, and we're like, we're landing back the other way we came. Like, I don't even know what we said. We were probably so nervous. And we were able to just barely make the runway, and the engine just like came to a stop. We go open it up, and sure enough, one of the spark plugs just like blew out of the engine and like broke the engine. So they were like, okay, well, you're checked out to go fly in it. Now go do some cross countries. And I'm like, okay. And so for the next few months, and this is like, I was terrified of flying. And it was just a rush of fears that was constantly coming in my head. Like anytime I heard an irregular movement or irregular sound or made an irregular movement that wasn't just like straight and smooth, I would just clench my butt so bad that like at the end of the flight, my butt was just hurting because I was clenching it the whole time. And I honestly like was afraid because it wasn't just that constant fear. It was the fear like, oh, I've just dedicated so much money and time, and this is like what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, and I am terrified of doing it. And it was just a constant thing for months and months. And it wasn't until a few months after that like it just kind of went away one day, and I don't have that fear anymore. But it was like a real like terrifying moment, and this is to me like real fear. Like a spider or whatever will scare you for a second, but when something like that, it was scary in the time, but that's not what was scary. It was the constant fear over time. I think that's what like real fear is, because that like can severely impact your life. So yeah, there's my really long-winded answer on scariest moment of my life. Sorry, that went a lot longer than I thought it would.